For the power of truth, this is the Glad Report.
Good day, my dearest gladiators. Welcome. I'm happy to be back. This is an episode dedicated to our former president, Edgar Chagwa Lungu, being back into active politics. Can I get a whoop whoop? Yes, indeed. Without further ado, here I go. On the 28th of October, which was the 9th memorial service of the former president Michael Chilufasate, was the occasion our former president Edgar Lungu chose to take advantage of to allow himself to make the announcement that he would be back into active politics. Of course, just watching the videos, it was a joyous uproar of the crowd, particularly because this occasion was surrounded by PF supporters. They were very, very happy, as was visible. Of course, it had been a very, very busy week for the Patriotic Front. Earlier in the week, a few Patriotic Front members were suspended. Also, Sampa, a former Matero MP, stood for president, which caught certain people by surprise. And in response to that, the PF Secretariat, signed by Honourable Given Lovinda, was signed that he would be expelled. Anyway, he was present at that particular memorial, hand in hand with other PF bigwigs. This particular announcement was met with a warm message coming from the president, from the special communications officer at State House. A warm message was given out saying that the president was delighted that our president being Hakainde Hichilema, His Excellency, he was delighted that our former president was taking charge and taking advantage of his constitutional rights, saying that, you know what, he would like to place his hat back into the ring, the presidential seat ring, that is. So in that light, for me, what I care about the most is perhaps the economics. But as we know, politics and economics are joined at the hip, joined at the navel. They're inextricably linked. And in that regard, in my discussions about economics, I must touch on the politics. As is the case for many African countries, they're inextricably linked because the politics control the economics. Yes. So let's take a step back and look at our President Lungu. In 2021, he was voted out on the premise that the issue of the cadres had become a really big one, especially here in Lusaka. People had said they were harassed by the cadres. Indeed, the cadres were being fueled by a lot of funding from the Patriotic Front, which made them happy, but the citizens who were not part of that cadreism were unhappy. Yes, so it became a really big issue, and also things had become a bit more difficult. At the time, 2021 was the highest inflation that Zambia had experienced in 19 years. Post 1998, and started 2020 going into 2021. The highest inflation since 1998. So it was a serious thing. Prices were rising. The price of medium oil was about, let's say, 180, 190, around that range, depending on where you're buying it from. So it's a serious issue, and people were like, no, we're tired, we've had 10 years of the Patriotic Front, it's about time we say no, we're done with this political party, and we would like to try the United Party for National Development. Need I emphasize, the United Party for National Development is mainly capitalist in policy, whilst the Patriotic Front is a mix of capitalism and socialism. So the UPND would definitely follow the Bretton Woods organizations, the World Bank and IMF, which are capitalist, which have presented themselves as capitalist organizations around the world for mainly poor countries. So of course we were in a sticky one following our debt default November 2020, when we failed to pay back our, the Euro bonds, international loans we had made. We failed to pay them back in time because our reserves, I believe we ran out of dollars. we had run out of dollars. So So in Lungu's regime, they had started the process of going to the IMF cap in hand, saying, "Oh goodness, we are in trouble. Please help us." So as they were leaving, they had gotten the ball rolling, and really they were about to do it. So when the UPND came into office, they were just handed over the mantle, and they said, "You know what? Okay, we're going to finish this off." So by the end of July, which is 31st July, 1st August, the IMF deal was granted. And with the IMF, they have financial street cred. So if the IMF comes to us and says, no, I think you guys have gotten your borrowing under control, and you're kind of listening to our terms and conditions of receiving this loan, the IMF deal, which was a $1.3 billion loan, you know what? We will grant you the loan, and probably in the financial world, you will be deemed as somewhat more trustworthy, which was the case. So $1.3 billion. The loan was granted to us, and I believe it was given in portions, so we received just over $130 million. The terms and conditions of the IMF, capitalist regime. So obviously, as I said, the Patriotic Front, socialism and capitalism. So in their socialist mindset of the Patriotic Front, they had to subsidize a few commodities. The few commodities being the mealie meal as well as electricity. When the IMF came into the picture, they said take out mealie meal and electricity subsidies, and they requested that it comes up to about $800 million yearly. So the subsidies were taken out, and obviously, as you know, take out the subsidies, now the weight of the cost is now on the people, and now the people feel the pinch of the money they're paying. So a sticky situation the Zambians were put in. Not necessarily deliberate from the UPND to say, let's inflict pain on the people. No, wasn't the case. But if you dealt with the IMF, you do have to listen to the terms and conditions, and those terms and conditions of the IMF were to take out subsidies. Then here we are. Lungu has come into the picture. He's like, you know what? Look at this terrible situation you're in, Zambians. Here I am. I'm the hero, and I'm here to save the day, and I'll sort out all these things. So he's come, low-key, the knight in shining armor, and he's saying, I'm going to sort out the situation, just taking advantage of the fact that things are looking bad, they're looking dire, and that perhaps that's why it was a rather joyous happening when the PF supporters heard that he was coming back. So here Edgar Lungu comes back, His Excellency, a very joyous moment. So the trade-off here could be the UPND could perhaps choose to kind of just loosen the belt that they've tightened in terms of the costs, and say, you know what, maybe let's just put a few subsidies just to not allow Lungu to have as many supporters. Or they could completely disregard him and just say, you know what, let him have as many supporters as possible. We're the people at center stage, we're the people winning, and we're the people that people are paying attention to, and he's more of a sideshow, he's in the periphery. Perhaps if they follow the UPND, our president, if he follows in the footsteps of his predecessor, His Excellency Edgar Lungu, he could choose to basically stifle his campaign, shake him a little, scare him a little, in the sense that the Patriotic Front, particularly in the regime of Lungu, they had arrested our now President Hakainde Hichilema 15 times, trying to, basically scare him into saying, you know what, actually, I don't want to do this presidential race anymore. But then, now, hallelujah, he's now in power. So that's basically the trade-off that the UPND is presented with. I'm mostly thinking they'll probably just look at him as more of a sideshow. Because indeed they were expecting him to come out of the shadows, because just from what he was doing, I think a few media houses were calling his Edgar Lungu's Saturday runs as political jogging, because he would have a few supporters run with him as he did his Saturday jog. Political jogging, and just a few writings on the wall that made it kind of clear to the UPND that Edgar Lungu would be coming back into the picture. So the UPND not caught by surprise at all. Also, in this regard of the UPND, this UPND PF, this PF brawl, this PF fight, Indeed, in the PF choosing to come back into the race, they have, particularly Edgar Lungu, he has lost something, or at least is bound to lose something in this frame. By his choice to come back into active politics, he could be trading off his pension, that presidential shining pension. He could be choosing to trade it off and just say, you know what, let me just leave it. That is if 2/3 of Parliament choose to make sure that presidential pension is cancelled. It's looking like it's most likely going to be the case. Why do I say so? 34.7% of Parliament is the Patriotic Front. The rest of them, majority, just over 50%, is UPND, and we need 2/3. So it's most likely that they will vote not in favour of Edgar Lungu. So he does have something to lose in this light. Hopefully he has enough money in his pocket. Yeah, there is quite a bit to lose. But perhaps there is so much to gain. I'm a supporter of democracy in the sense that I like this idea of having an active opposition, a strong opposition. Why? It is the opposition that holds government accountable. It provides proper pathways to hold government accountable. And I want government to win, because if government wins in all its transactions, that money will trickle down and it will come to we, the Zambian citizens, who are not necessarily in the government, and we will reap the benefits of a good government. So a good opposition kind of translates into a good government. So strong opposition, which would mean like a strong government. So democracy, we need opposition as well as the ruling party itself. Yes, perhaps these are my thoughts just following Lungu's return. Yeah, and it's a rather exciting time to be in. I'm just curious to see what the Patriotic Front would announce with regards to the actual presidential position, whether it's Miles Sampa or Edgar Lungu. I'm kind of leaning on the side of Edgar Lungu, unless things go south for him. But I'm kind of leaning on the side for him that he will become president. Yeah, just considering how people were excited and like how Gavin Lawinda was to his right, Tshimba Kambuli was at his back, super excited when he was making that announcement. These are just telltale signs that tell us that he's the guy of the moment, he's the man of the moment, His Excellency. So this is my opinion. I'm glad with the report.
For the power of truth, this is the Glad Report.